to remove the sunset from the Affordable Housing Tax Credit statute. And this committee has previously expressed an interest in monitoring the effectiveness of this 30-day process, and particularly in whether any changes were needed to ensure that the process moved quickly enough to be responsive to taxes needs. Since we've now completed our first of these projects, we're here now to share how it went. And then we're also happy to brief this committee on the substance of what we've prepared for the taxation committee in as much detail as you would like. So we have about a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation that we could provide if that's of interest.
Of course.
But first, I'll let Jen provide some quick information of the logistics of how this went.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Senator. As Carrie said, my name is Jen Henderson, and I'm an analyst with OPEGA. So as far as the timing of the project goes, as you noted, Senator, we were able to complete the project in just under 30 days. And so the tax committee submitted the request on Wednesday, January 21st. And this committee took up the request on Friday, January 23rd, just 2 days later. So we were able to have a pretty short turnaround period there. And in the past, that period was a time period that we had heard some concern about possibly adding length to the project, that it could take a while for taxes request to get processed before OPEGA even was able to start on the project. And that wasn't the case here. And we just wanted to note, we think that that is in large part due to coordination between staff at OPEGA and the OPLA analysts who are staffing the taxation committee. The analysts there, Steve Langland and Jessica Griswold, have been just amazing to work with. And as soon as they got even an inkling that the tax committee might be looking to make a request, they started working with us to coordinate with us and be aware of when this committee would be meeting so that we could all together make sure that the timing would be such that this committee could act quickly on any request. So that worked really well. Also, as you noted, Senator, we were able to actually complete the work in just under 30 days and get that to the tax committee. And again, we'd been communicating our expected timing for finishing to the OPLA analysts again. And so they had made tax committee members aware that the materials would be coming. So hopefully they knew to look for it in their inboxes. And we did submit it electronically so that everyone could have the information as quickly as possible. The final products included, and you have them in your books, both a one-pager that sort of summarized at a very high level the takeaways, and then also a full document that you have in your binders as well. And we delivered those to the GOC at the same time electronically so that this committee would be aware that the product had been presented. And then tax asked us to come and present the final product to that committee on Tuesday, February 24th. And we did so. When we presented, we noted that the members seemed engaged in the information and expressed appreciation for it. We didn't get any direct feedback about whether there were any tweaks that might be suggested to the process for future, but we did make sure to let the committee know that we are happy to receive that feedback at any time from tax or from GOC. And just as a final closing note, we did also then follow that legislation, and we noted that the legislation again was LD 2116, an act to make the Affordable Housing Income Tax Credit permanent. And the committee held a work session on that bill on March 10th. And voted the bill after brief discussion, and it was a divided report with the majority ought to pass as amended and the minority ought not to pass. And again, the original bill would have removed the sunset completely to make the credit permanent. The ought to pass as amended amendment extends the credit by 8 years. So instead of getting rid of the sunset entirely, it moves the sunset out 8 years. And that's the current status of it as far as we know.
Okay. Yeah, it has not yet been reported out of committee, but thank you for the summary of what is to come.
And with that, we're happy to answer any questions about how this process went or to receive any feedback from this committee. As Carrie said, we do have about a 15-minute presentation we could share that was the same presentation we gave to tax, or we could just walk briefly through the one-pager, depending on your workload today and what would work best.
The chair would request that you provide the 15-minute PowerPoint presentation to us as well. Before you do that, Representative Stover, you were here to introduce yourself. Is that correct? Yes. Senator Tipping has joined us. Senator Tipping, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Tipping, Senate District 8 in Penobscot County.
Thanks for being here. So you may proceed with your 15-minute flashlight presentation whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Senator. Is it all right if we share the PowerPoint?
Yes, you have permission to share the screen.
All right. I'm actually going to skip a lot of what I had to say on this page because we just went through a lot of what this process was, but I wanted to start by saying that this project is an example of what we could do in a 30-day analysis, but a future project could look very different depending on what the questions are and what the needs of the taxation committee for a bill. So just keep that in mind, and I'm going to turn things over to Jeff.
Okay. So for this particular 30-day project, we had basically 3 scope areas that the taxation committee asked us to address. And those are here on the slide. The 3 areas were basically, first, to provide information about similar programs in other states, and specifically about sunsets of similar programs in other states, since that was the topic of this bill. We were also asked to provide readily available information on affordable housing trends in Maine and nationally, and to provide what information we could about existing research about the effects of tools like this on the availability of affordable housing. So for just a quick summary of what we found, when looking at affordable housing tax credits in other states, we found that a lot of other states do have credits like this. We found that 33 states at the time of our checking had some version of a similar type of affordable housing tax credit. And we found that of those 33, 19 had some kind of mechanism, either a sunset or an appropriation process, that acted as a mechanism for periodic review, both of the program itself and in the context of state funding priorities. When looking at the national and Maine affordable housing trends, we found that there does continue to be significant affordable housing need, and that in Maine specifically, between 80 to 90% of affordable housing need was unmet as of October of 2025, according to a needs study done by Maine Housing. Regarding this credit's contribution to meeting that need, Maine Housing reported that the state credit had supported development and completion of 429 affordable housing units between the years of 2023 and 2025, and that there are currently another 525 units in the pipeline, not fully completed yet, but somewhere along the process. And finally, while we spent some time reviewing the body of research on state credits and on the federal credit, we did not find that there was data that was readily available that we could confidently summarize within this brief time frame on the merits, the relative merits and cost effectiveness of different housing tools, including credits like this one, which are often used together and can be difficult to tease apart. So we'll provide more information briefly on each of these areas, and Carrie will start us off.
So the first area the taxation committee asked us to look into was about available information on other states' similar credits and programs, particularly information around sunsets. In the document, Appendix F is a big table of the 33 states and DC that's included in that 33 number that OPEGA identified as having affordable housing credits, with information on the features of these credits and links to sources for anybody who'd like to dig deeper. Page 1 of the report also has more information as well if you'd like to follow along. We
Thank you.
found that 19 out of 33 state affordable housing credits do have sunset dates or other appropriation controls. Of those without sunset dates, 3 programs are limited by state appropriations, and these are in California, Florida, and Tennessee. Arizona's credit has a sunset date, but also seems to be subject to a budgetary process, and it was left unfunded in 2025. For those with sunsets, many are set to expire in the next couple of years. Illinois' credit is set to expire in 2026. In 2027, credits are set to expire in Alabama, Hawaii, and Ohio. And in 2028, credits are set to expire in Arizona, Indiana, Kansas, Maine, Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Utah. We also saw that other states have recently grappled with their sunset like Maine is doing now. 6 states recently made or considered sunset-related program changes, like